welcome, Multiversal Wanderers, to the Omen Path podcast. Alex, how are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. Love that intro. That's pretty cool. I'm not too bad at all myself. How are you doing, my friend?
Yeah, doing well, thanks. Yeah, looking forward to the new release.
Yeah, definitely. Most of today's podcast, we will be talking about the up-and-coming Duskmourn set. But before we get into that, Dom, what have you been up to? What have you been doing magic-wise?
Ooh, I've just started firing up again Friday Night Magic.
Yep.
Yeah, casual commander pods. And then not for long, though, because I'm going on holiday next week to Scotland for a week. So,
yeah, very nice.
Yeah, up to the Shattergang territory.
Ooh. Make sure you take your Iron Brew and your Haggis with you.
Yeah. It's a friendly invasion.
Yeah, friendly. Yeah, exactly. Friendly being the word. Friendly being the word. Very good. Yeah, so, what have I been up to? Not a massive amount is what I would admit. I have actually played a little bit of Commander recently, which is very unlike me. I have built a new deck, which has playtested a couple of times. I cannot remember the guy's name, but it's the dude from Thunder Junction that turns your treasures into free constructs, and it gives them vigilance and haste.
Oh yes, so he's the alternate commander from the Outlaws precon.
He is, and I'm very much enjoying him. Although the first time I played him, card drawer was not very good in that game, whereas I played it twice yesterday. I think I played it twice yesterday, and it just got real spicy real quickly. So
If you can create a lot of treasures, then it can get out of control pretty quick.
The one thing I would say for it, from my limited experience of playing it so far, is having the treasures isn't the problem. It's churning through your deck, which is actually the biggest part about this, because if you are not seeing your cards, you're not seeing other cards that are going to be creating the treasures, and you're not going to be getting the value. The very first game I played, I pretty much had one treasure at any one point, and my commander was just vulnerable the whole time, and it just wasn't doing its thing. So to go from not doing much to absolutely kicking off, and it just rolled over everyone, I was pretty happy with that. So I am pretty happy. I am in the process of building a new scary / themed deck for Command Fest, which is up and coming just over a week. So I've probably spoken previously. I'm looking to build the Reaper King for anyone on the YouTubes. That is the Reaper King. And
Halloween deck.
Yeah, classic Scarecrow deck / Changeling / Shapeshifter deck, where you just what's that? I don't like your Smothering Tithe. I'm going to play my Scarecrow. I'm going to destroy it.
Your opponent doesn't get to keep their permanents anymore.
Pretty much. That's pretty much what it boils down to.
As you play some of the worst creature cards ever printed in Magic's history.
Yes,
but most of the Scarecrows.
But combined with that commander turns them quite good. I think I was thinking about this earlier. I think I'm going to have to build a lot of protection into it, because I think people are going to be like, don't care about your Scarecrows. What I do care about is your Reaper King. Maybe we'll look at some hexproof or something like that. That'd be absolutely fine. Okay, so we are just approaching Duskmourn release. Unfortunately, I can't attend a pre-release this time. I know I've been pretty bad with these pre-releases recently, and by the sounds of things, you cannot attend one neither.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'll be driving up to Scotland, so
that'll be unfortunate.
No pre-release for me either.
No, tell you what, we might have to do. Maybe we'll get a couple of pre-release packs, and we'll do our own little thing. How does that sound?
That sounds great, actually. Yeah,
I'd be down for that. I do really enjoy it. I do really, really enjoy it. I know it's nice to do it with others and stuff like that, but at least it gives us a bit of a taste. Okay, Dom, so why don't we kick off? Why don't you talk to us about the new mechanics that are involved in this new set coming up then?
Yeah, so there's a few interesting new mechanics. First and foremost, you have a new enchantment type called Rooms.
Yep, these are cool.
And these are similar to split cards in some ways, so you can choose which half of the card to play. Now, there's often one which is a lower mana cost, and then one that's a higher mana cost. So if you
Sure.
draw it late game, great, play the high mana cost and get that effect immediately, or even both.
Yeah.
Because one can basically, once they're on the field, you can actually pay the mana cost of the other half of the card to unlock that room, and that will gain you the additional effect. Some of them are permanent effects, some of them are just one-offs. But yeah, all of these cards are quite interesting. They've got full cycles at most rarities.
Yep.
I think in this set.
I think the thing that's really interesting about these is exactly what you've just sort of said. So we are so used to the split cards, you get to choose one or the other. But the beautiful thing about this is these room cards is you can play either one side. It can stay on the battlefield. And then I think the terminology is you unlock the other side, if I remember rightly.
Right, so yeah, you have to do it at sorcery.
Only at sorcery speed. That's right.
So you can't do it at instant speed and get get double strike at instant speed and then kill your opponent. It has to be done at sorcery speed. So once you've got one room down, then you can pay to unlock the other. Yeah. And you can, whichever one you play, you can then unlock the other for the stated mana cost.
I think these are really interesting. I'm really excited to play around with these. I know this set is a very much. It feels like a very heavy enchantment set, and I think this is going to be a really nice addition to the game. Actually, just going to put you on the spot here, Dom. How much play do you reckon these are going to see in standard?
It really depends. There's quite a few cards when we go into one of the other mechanics. There's quite a few cards that care about enchantments entering.
Mm-hmm.
You get some bonus, and I mean, some of these rooms are 2 mana, so actually some of them might see play. The mythic ones and the rare ones, some of them seem actually quite powerful.
Yep.
So
yeah.
I think we'll see some of them.
Yeah, I think we will. I
feel like they've been smart in the way that some of them have been printed in the lower mana cost room is kind of the same text that you might see on like a previous sorcery.
Sure.
So it's like a card that exists, but you gain that effect. You can play this mana cost, and then it sits around, and then on a later turn, you've got spare mana. You can actually put it into unlocking the other side of the room.
Yeah.
So they might end up replacing those kind of sorceries, right?
I feel like these will definitely, potentially, I mean, as in general, I think could help fuel tempo and mid game plays, potentially, or having that sort of to the mid game to the late game advantage. I think that could work really, really nicely. Actually, I've seen a few of them that are quite nice. We'll come on to a little bit of the particular the cards today. I've got one that I want to particularly talk about later on, but. Yeah, I think these are really quite interesting, actually. I'm looking forward to playing with these, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of functionality, and especially in Commander with enchantments, obviously.
I think Commander is where you'll mainly see these, personally, but yeah, be interesting.
We'll see. I think the unlocking being sorcery might be what holds it back, but we'll see.
Yeah, but then equally, you can't really play
some of these effects are pretty powerful.
Yeah, exactly. And also, look, you got to remember it's an enchantment as well, and enchantments, you tend
to stick around, right?
But also they're sorcery speed play, aren't they? They're not, I know there are the odd enchantments and that sort of stuff, but that you can maybe flash or play at instant speed, but they are very rare. They're
generally auras, aren't they, that protect the creature?
Exactly. Exactly. So, and I think you're right. Some of these cards playing at instant speeds would be wild. So, probably best at that. I'll take the next one. Another keyword ability is impeding, which is quite an interesting one. I will read it straight off the card. If you cast this spell for its impeding cost, it enters.
It's impending. Sorry. Impending doom.
It is impending, of course it is. Sorry, it's my dodgy reading going on there. Impending. I will start from the beginning. If you cast this spell for its impending cost, it enters with 4 time counters on it, and it isn't a creature until the last is removed. At the beginning of your end step, remove a time counter from it. So it's a little bit like it's just gone from my head. The Timey-Wimey deck uses them quite frequently.
And almost.
The what, sorry?
Oh, suspend or
suspend. Yeah, suspend.
Those kind of things.
They're very, very similar.
Yeah, so notably these creatures are I'm not sure if all of them are, but the vast majority, I think they all are enchantment creatures. So they're basically hanging around as an enchantment until the last counter is removed, and then they become this creature. And most of them, like the overlords, are, you know, a lot of them are very powerful. So like the example I give on I think there's one, like the green one is 5 mana, 6/5. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, you create a tapped colorless land token named Everywhere. That is every basic land type. So some of these are really interesting.
Yeah.
And yeah, obviously, so you will get that when it enters the battlefield.
Yep.
The first time, and then whenever it attacks after it's become a creature, you'll get this effect again. So that's the overlords in particular. But yeah, I think there are other cards with it.
Yeah, I think the thing I really like about it is you get a payoff for them entering, and generally, and then I'm looking at the overlord of the boiler bilges, I think it is.
Okay, yeah, is that the red one, is it?
Yeah, that's the red one, and it's when it enters or attacks, it deals 4 damage to any target. So
that's really powerful.
4's an interesting amount actually, because for a long time we'd see 2 or maybe even 3. But 4 that's a hell of a reach on it, isn't it?
Yeah, it's more than a lightning bolt.
Yeah, and I know obviously it sounds like 4 mana for 4 damage as it enters the battlefield, but your opponents have got to deal with this, and I know there'll be enchantment removal knocking around, don't get me wrong, but they've got to deal with this. Otherwise, this is going to be a problem quite quickly. You know, let's be honest, even if it's a 5/5, that's pretty meaty. And you're doing 4 damage every time you go to attacks.
If you can't deal with it, that game is over.
Yeah. You know, is it going to be becoming a staple? I mean, look, I'm making a sweeping statement here, but is this going to become a staple in a fast mono red deck? No, I think this is too expensive for that. But I tell you what,
is it to any target?
Yeah, any target as well.
So actually, as a finisher, you might have one of.
Could maybe, do. Yeah, no, that's a good point actually, because it is a finisher. You know, basically they've spent all their removal getting rid of all your bits and bobs, and then this comes out towards the end, and you've done enters the battlefield, 4 damage to the face. You carry on doing what you're doing, and then it comes in, attacks. You know, you're looking at 9 damage there potentially.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got a haste enabler, you can just cast this creature normally as well. You should mention.
Yeah,
the impending is an alternate cost, so yeah, actually you can just slap this down as a creature if you really want to. If it's later in the game, most of the costs are cheaper than the actual casting costs. You get them down early, but then you have to wait.
You have to wait 4 turns. Yeah, that's the downside.
Probably too slow for standard, but
yeah, particularly for like mono red. But you know, look, you know, there's some Boros decks. I know they're a bit lower to the ground than this probably, but actually, you know, there's some interesting builds around this. I think it's an interesting mechanic. It doesn't excite me. I'm going to be brutally honest with you. Like, the rooms, I'm all in on these. They sound really, really good.
I think because these are enchantment creatures, say it again in Commander, but if you're in an Enchantress deck, you're going to want to run these. They're enchantment creatures with really powerful effects on them.
Yep.
And yeah, maybe, okay, I'll just pay this early on. I'm going to get to draw a card because I've got an Enchantress out, you know, or something like that. So
yeah, I've not gone over the set extensively, but what I do feel like is that I think in Commander, I think we're going to see a lot of these cards. Like you sort of said, they're an enchantment. They've got good payoffs coming in, and they're meaty. Do you know what I mean? These tick all the boxes. Yeah. You know, to me, this is there's a lot of boxes being ticked here. Are we going to go on?
Yeah. Sorry, I was going to say it's like the worst case for this green one, right? You cast it 3 mana, 1 and 2 green, and then you get a land that taps for any color. Actually,
it's a pretty sweet ramp in it, at the very least.
Honestly, fine. If you got to draw a card off it, brilliant.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah. If
it survives, you end up with a 6/5 that makes you a land every turn, which is great for landfall decks as well.
Well, yeah, that's a really good point. Actually, I didn't really think about that. Actually, I'm just sort of having a look at some of the other ones, because the white ones
they're all got really quite powerful effects.
Yeah,
I think the white one creates 3/1 spirits.
Yeah, 2/2/1 white insect creatures tokens with flying. I mean,
Right. Okay.
that's pretty good. Also, you know, I know this one's 5, 6, 7 mana, but it's a 6/6. It's quite a chunky boy.
Yeah. And what's the impending cost on that one, for example?
4.
Yeah. So
It's impending 4.
You're paying 4 for 2/2/1s with flying is probably not that bad.
I don't really
Honestly, in
think so.
limited.
No, I think that. I mean, realistically, that's going to hold back some damage for at least a turn or two, and then you've got another couple more turns, and then it's on.
Yeah.
They've got
Gives you 2 evasive attackers.
Yeah,
Right.
very much so. I do quite like. I know this is going to sound a very obvious thing, me saying this, but I actually really quite like the blue one. So it's 3 generic, 2 blue for a 5/3, or you can play for its impending, which is a generic and 2 blue. It's a flyer, and when it enters the battlefield or attacks, draw 2 cards and discard a card. I mean,
Yeah, so it's
pretty good.
Card.
Yeah.
You're netting a card or discard a land. You've got 2 new cards.
To be quite honest, very much so. 3 mana for that. I know it's not amazing, but bear in mind it sits around for 4 turns and then comes into battlefield.
Yeah,
I'd take that. I'd take that.
You'd be perfectly happy as a control player to have it sitting there ticking down while your opponent's, trying to find an answer for it.
This could.
And you might even have protection for it once it does become a creature, right? That's.
I think this could potentially be. Excuse me. Is it going to be the next Hullbreaker Horror? No, but 5/3 with flying. When you've got time on your hands, being a control player.
5/3, so you can play the red one and it pops it. The white one being a 6/6 is kind of punchy.
Yeah, but it's got no evasion.
Yeah, I guess.
If that had some sort of evasion, even if it had like ward or I'm not for 1 second saying this card needs ward. That's not what I'm saying at all. But if it had something like that, I think you'd be a bit more different. It'd be a bit of a different position. You are right. That 5/3 does put it into the danger zone quite considerably. But we'll see.
It's a 5-power flyer. You're not going to cry about it.
No, you're not.
If it hangs around.
You're certainly
Your
not.
opponent might, but yeah.
Well, yeah, that's up to them, isn't it? What about?
Okay.
I'll let you carry on with the next one.
Yeah, so I'm just going down the article. So I'm going to go for the next one, Manifest Dread.
Yep.
So this is a mechanic. Obviously, Manifest is an old mechanic where you take the top card of your library and place it face down as a colourless 2/2 creature with no name, no creature types, no abilities, and no mana cost. But Manifest Dread is I would say, dramatically improved version. So instead of just the top card of your library, you look at the top 2 cards, you put one onto the battlefield face down as the creature, and the other into your graveyard. So obviously, for those who don't know, a manifested creature can be turned face up for its printed mana cost.
Yes.
So it gives you a much higher chance of hitting a creature and then being able to flip it up, and also fills a graveyard.
Yep.
So,
yeah.
pretty good.
Yeah. Look, this sounds quite interesting. So this reminds me. It's obviously not the same, but this is kind of that sort of cryptic coat-esque style. I'm going to take a card from the top of my library and basically use it as something on my battlefield, with the opportunity to flip it over. Yeah, it sounds pretty good.
Yeah, so they did this, didn't they, in the Karlov mana set, where you had basically a superior version of Morph, because your
Cloak.
Morphs created...
Cloak, I think it's called.
Yeah, Cloak, yeah. So it was effectively a Morph with Ward 2 for no apparent reason.
Oh, yeah. Ward 2 on that is crazy.
This is kind of similar, I guess, but it's not
No.
to the same impact.
No.
But it's definitely nice that you can actually pick between the 2 cards.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting thing, actually, because where I can really see this working is... so I tell you where I see this working quite nicely is, say, in my Rafine Commander deck, where actually I want cards in the graveyard. I kind of like the idea of that. So I'll look at them and be like, oh, my big old creature, that can go to the graveyard, and my other spell that I probably want on my battlefield or whatever. Yeah.
Notably, there's ways obviously to manipulate this. If you can put a creature on top of your library and then manifest dread it, The thing about when you do flip up a manifest or a morph is that it's what's called a special game action. So it doesn't use the stack, can't be responded to. So your opponent just has to eat whatever happens.
I always forget that about these, but it's like, pretty good, isn't it?
It's like ninjutsu, right? So say you've got this 2/2 manifest, as an example given in the article. If you've got a 2/2 manifest, someone tries to lightning bolt it, you can simply flip it up there and then.
Their spell fizzles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or it becomes a creature with 4 toughness and your lightning bolt doesn't kill it.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's interesting.
Or something your creature has, indestructible or whatever it is underneath this manifest. So it's an interesting. It's an old mechanic. We've seen it before, but it's slightly improved. Is how I would.
I tell you the next card down from the release notes we're looking from. Actually, I quite like the idea of Unwanted Remake, which is a 1 white mana destroy target creature. Its controller manifest dreads.
This is playable.
I think this is definitely. I think this is playable.
1 mana instant destroy target creature doesn't come around very often.
Well,
in fact, I get a 2/2 out of it. Who cares?
Well, yeah. I mean, but you've got to remember, even if you take some of the best spot removal, like in Commander, which is like Swords of Plowshares and Path to Exile. I know this is destroy, not exile, but there's still a payoff of they go get a land or they get to gain life equal to the power. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
this is similar effect, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. This is similar effect. I mean, if this was exile, this would be wild. But
it wouldn't have been printed in the standard set. I
100% agree with you on
certainly
that.
not a 1 mana.
No, exactly.
Right.
But I do
another 1 mana removal for white.
Yeah,
just good.
Exactly. I still think this could be. This is a good card. I think that's probably going to see some play. I think whether it will hang around or not will depend on the type of decks that once the meta settles. If there's a lot of I'm going to put into my graveyard or like fast action responses, it might.
It's an interesting one because also they might have their huge bomb creature that you'll want to counterspell, for example, and instead you've made them manifest it. So obviously you can't counter that.
Yep.
Once it's on the field, flipping it face up. You can't stop that in any way. So.
No. I think the one thing that there are a few in there, but obviously that's as a control player, that's when you're thinking to yourself, my board woes now need to deal with that. So, yeah.
Maybe you side it out,
Yeah.
But it's still great.
Oh, yeah, I think so. I mean, 1 mana destroy creature is great, full stop.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty
Can't really argue with that.
No, you cannot.
So, did you want to do the next?
Yeah, sure. So the next one I can see is Survival, which is at the beginning of your second main phase. No, that's not the best way of putting it, is it? So basically, what it sort of says is at the beginning of your second main phase, this is written off a card called Cautious Surveyor. It says at the beginning of your second main phase, if Cautious Surveyor is tapped, you gain 2 life. So let me just scroll down. Yeah, okay. So basically, what's happening is they're on creatures, and you meet the criteria, and it gives you a little Brucey bonus, basically by the sounds of things.
Yeah. So it's obviously the easiest way to tap a creature is to attack with it.
Go to combat, exactly.
Yeah. Or notably, there are some vehicles in this set.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So you can tap them to crew the vehicle. Don't even have to attack with the vehicle, right? They're already tapped. So you move to your second main, and then suddenly the creature that crewed it has got a bonus for being tapped.
100%. Yep, that's free. That's free value. But as far as I'm concerned, that's free value, isn't it?
And I think, as I was said off street, it's like we're about to go into 2025, and they've talked about having the Death Race set, or further down the line. So there'll be a lot of vehicles kicking around. So it'll be even easier if there's some good ones to be able to tap these creatures.
I think you may find with some of this that some of these cards may not be forgotten, but maybe just pushed to one side a little bit. But I think you're right. When that set comes out, I think we're going to see a lot of these will probably end up becoming potentially been staples of certain decks. That's for sure.
Some of them will almost certainly have been designed with that vehicle synergy in mind.
100%. Yeah, 100%. I can only see this one as an example, but I mean, it is effectively, if it's tapped, gain 2 life. I mean, it's on a 4/4 body as well. I mean, it's still pretty good.
That's personally pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, there's one in white, which is a 1-drop 2/1, and if it's 5, you get to exile 1 card from a graveyard.
Oh. Okay.
And then if you've exiled 3 cards with it, it gets +3/+3 and has hexproof, so it ends up being a 5/4.
That's really good.
It's not that long, but actually, if you've got a vehicle, not that difficult.
I still think that's pretty good. I still think it's pretty good. And then, more importantly, once you've achieved its goals, it has hexproof and and the buff. I think that's really good.
I think notably also, what I don't talk about here is that we do have a returning mechanic of Delirium.
Yeah, we do.
Go into, so that requires your opponent to have cards in their graveyard. So actually, anything that can remove cards from their graveyard is pretty strong.
And monitoring a bad idea. We have got Delirium coming up. We'll talk about it in a second. Do you want to catch the next one here, Eerie?
Yeah. Okay. So Eerie is now this is the mechanic I was talking about that cares about enchantments entering the battlefield, but also whenever you fully unlock a room, it triggers as well. So I've got an example here, the Scrabbling Skull Crab, which is great artwork. It's a 0/3 for 1 blue. Whenever an enchantment you control enters, and whenever you fully unlock a room, target player mills 2 cards.
Yep.
Classic crab card.
Classic crab. Yep.
So it's pretty, I mean, 1-drop 0/3 just blanks out a lot of aggro as well.
Yeah. It's pretty. It's got a big back end to absorb some of that damage, isn't it?
Yeah. So again, this is like cares about enchantments entering the battlefield, and whenever you fully unlock a room, so it's a bit of support for rooms, but also any enchantment. So
yep, it's pretty good.
Yeah,
sounds pretty good. I like that. There's cards. I mean, look, I know cards are getting quite wordy nowadays, but I do like that there's good payoff for doing other things. It's almost like the card in itself is fine, but when you're doing extra things, you're unlocking more stuff, so you're getting more value out of a single card. I mean, I'm quite enjoying that at the minute. If I'm honest with you, it's sounding and looking pretty good to me.
Yeah.
So let's talk about. So I'm just scrolling down here. The next one is technically a new cycle of non-basic lands. We'll come back to that in a second. So the next one I've got then is Delirium, which is what you've already just mentioned. So Delirium, if there are 4 or more card types among cards in your graveyard instead... So I'm going to stop myself right there. I'm reading a card called Demonic Council, which says, search your library for a demon card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and then shuffle. And Delirium cost says, if there are 4 or more cards, instead search your floor for any card and put it into your hand. So, first of all, for 2 mana, that is really sweet. But
yeah, if you can achieve it, it's basically a demonic tutor. Right?
Pretty much. So, just to sort of summarize, Delirium for myself is when you have an amount of other card types in your graveyard, it gives you a payoff to something because on there. That's what I should have said first time round, but I was too busy reading the card. But
so it normally has a basic effect, and then if you have Delirium, it does something more, right?
Yeah. So
same thing but better.
Yes. So what was the Delirium card of Modern Red Darcy that done pretty well? What was the actual name? It's gone from my head.
While you think about it, I'll go through one. So one of these other Delirium effects. So, so you've got like a Spine Seeker Centipedes, 2 generic, 1 green, 2/1. When it enters, you search your library for a basic land, reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle. But if you have Delirium, it gets +1/+2 and has Vigilance. So it's a 3/3 if you have Delirium. Otherwise, it's a 2/1. So and
mean,
vigilance.
That's not a bad shout, to be honest, particularly in certain decks. Dragon's Rage Chandler was the card I was trying to search from my head. But basically, again, like we were saying, you're getting payoffs, extra payoffs for cards that you may or may not play already. But the payoff for when you've got the Delirium cost is normally pretty good. And let's be honest, with black and with quite a few decks, stuff's going to go in your graveyard anyway. You're going to play your cards. Do you know what I mean? You may discard a land or whatever. There's your land type. There's your land type. There's lots of artifacts going on here. You know, if something might get destroyed, discarded, whatever, that's going into your graveyard. Instance of Sorceries is a classic. It's nice and easy. You've got creatures that you're going to be attacking with that are going to die. You know, you're picking Delirium up. I'm not going to say you're picking up really quickly, but, you know, definitely a mid-game tactic that is definitely going to start sparking off and giving you all that value.
There's a lot of different effects they've done with this. So for example, say you've been playing against a control player, they counted every spell you've cast or blown everything up. Your graveyard's full. You've got Delirium. Yep. There is a card in this set called the Balustrade Worm, which is 3 generic 2 green for a 5/5. Mm-hmm. This spell can't be countered.
Yep.
Great. Always words I love to see. It has Trample and Haste. And and it also has the Delirium effects. You can pay 4 mana and return it from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, this is pretty cool.
I like it.
It's one of those different cards, so this is an activate ability from your graveyard if you have Delirium.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, look, you know, it's interesting. I think it's interesting. And this
would also count as one of them as well while it was in there.
Yeah, that's also a good point as well. I think it's a really interesting mechanic to have. I can see this one getting a bit more play than, say, maybe some of the other ones. Straight off the bat, I need to look at some more of the cards that are knocking around, but I think, I think this would be this will see play.
I honestly think, if the card itself is playable without getting the Delirium effect, it will obviously see play.
100%.
Some of them are probably unplayable unless you can guarantee the Delirium effect. So it'll be interesting to see which ones make it through that, what I would say, gauntlet.
I suspect probably quite a few of them won't quite make the grade. But the beautiful thing about Standard and any sort of format, particularly Eternal formats, is sometimes new cards come in that then spark up old cards, like we were talking about with the vehicles coming up. So, you know, it's always worth keeping an eye out for this stuff. It's amazing how often you'll be watching something or reading a piece, and all of a sudden this card from 3, 4, 5, 6 sets ago, all of a sudden a particular card spikes up because it works with a brand new card that's just come out.
Yeah, with a 3-year standard as well.
Yeah.
You know, you get some cards that have just been totally forgotten about, and then suddenly they'll combo with some new card from 2.5 years later, and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
Still creates a new deck or a new archetype.
Yeah, it can do. I mean, it also means other ones are hanging around, so Sheldred will be around just for a little bit longer, guys, just to let you know.
Oh, goodness.
I'm going to let you talk about schemes, because I have only just seen this, and I'm like, what are these? So I'm going to throw you in the deep end. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So these are... so they come with the Precon decks. Each has a series of schemes in there, and they allow you to play Archenemy. So now, historically, Archenemy was kind of a box set, so you got like 4 kind of constructed decks, and then you had an Archenemy deck. Someone would play as the Archenemy. You'd try and team up and beat them. So I think there was a Nicol Bolas one, and there was another one that I can't remember. But,
I do remember it being something else.
Yeah. So this is basically enabling you to take these cards, build a deck, and actually anyone can be the Archenemy.
Yeah.
And there's a few reprints of these schemes. Some of them have gotten quite expensive.
Yeah.
So there's a few good reprints in there if you do want to collect them.
Yeah.
But there's also printed a lot of new ones which actually reference Commander, which obviously the previous ones didn't because they weren't part of a commander set in any way. So
I think it's,
it's just a new way to play. So
just bear in mind what we've been talking. I think it's important to sort of say this is not standard. This is just
they come with so similar to historically the Planes Chase cards that come with the Commander Precons.
Yep.
These are similar to those. You get a deck of slightly larger, I guess 10 cards with each Precon. So if you get all 4, you can put them into one giant deck, I guess.
I just realised we were talking about new mechanics, particularly talking about standard, and I just threw you into this, and then thought it's probably worth mentioning that. But
yeah, they are new cards effectively that are being released as part of the set, but not only with the commander decks. So standard players don't need to worry about those.
I don't know the example you've got in front of you, but I've got "You Are Worthy of Mercy," and that's a beautiful bit of artwork, man. Well, it's beauty in the eye of the beholder, of course. It's incredibly, dark and spooky. But
some of these effects are pretty crazy. But obviously, you've got to remember how it's designed to be played. So it'll be 3 players against the one that is playing whatever that card does. Something insane.
Yeah. Well, it says when you set the scheme in motion, each opponent sacrifices a non-land permanent. If you control 6 or more lands, each opponent sacrifices 3 non-land permanents. I mean,
ouch.
You're definitely making yourself the arch enemy there, and let's be honest.
Yeah.
That is pretty cool. Any other mechanics? I don't think that.
I believe that's it for new mechanics.
So why don't we talk about? Why don't we jump on in there and we'll talk about the new lands the new dual lands that have been released. So it seems like there is. I don't want to stand.
Sets, isn't there?
Yeah, I don't want to say there's new dual lands constantly coming in, but we have had some recently, particularly Thunder Junction. I think those are pretty good.
Yeah, they're the Surveil lands, right?
The Surveil lands.
They notably have the land types on them, so they are fetchable.
Yes.
Which obviously makes them totally playable.
Let's start off with that point with these. So these are I don't know the generic name for them, but these are what Verge lands, I presume they're going to be called.
Yeah.
So they all have a name and Verge. So we've got Flood Farm Verge, Gloom Lake Verge, Blazemere Verge, Thornspire Verge, Hushwood Verge. That's it for those ones. So but more importantly, like you just said, they are not named, so they're not fetchable. They are just lands.
They have no land type. They are just lands. But this is the rare cycle. There's actually 2 sets of dual lands. There's one at common again, which is interesting. But this rare cycle. So I'll talk through one of them.
Yeah.
So you've got Blazemire Verge is the effectively the black-red land. So you can tap it to add black mana.
Yep.
Or you can tap it to add red, but only if you control a swamp or a mountain.
Yeah.
So, this is great. It enters untapped, which is probably a prerequisite for being playable in any format, effectively.
Yep.
They enter untapped. You can tap them for 1 color, and then if you have one of the colors of that land, so in this case it's black or red, if you've got swamp or mountain, you can tap to add red instead of the black.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there's a cycle. Is the rule 10? Or is it just 5?
I think it's just 5.
Yeah, so you might see the others in the upcoming sets. You've got the red green.
You've got green white. You've got blue black and then white blue. So notably for myself, some more Azorius options there. We just had a good one taken away from us actually. So it's nice to get this one back.
I'm almost certain we'll see the other half of this cycle in an upcoming set.
Probably the next set, yeah.
These are great. I can see these commanding a price. I haven't even looked at pricing yet, but these will probably command a price. Because every commander player will want these, right?
Well, so 100%. I mean, look, let me push that to one side. Bear in mind this is a standard set. I still think, even in a standard set, these are pretty good. So, to me, really good. To me, the downside is they're not fetchable, but the upside is particularly if you're playing, I'm going to say 2 to 3 color. I think you start going above that, maybe it starts to become a bit more risky. But, effectively, if you're playing, say, for argument's sake, Flood Farm Verge, the Azorius one, you're probably going to be playing a Plains or an Island. If not basic, you'll be playing maybe some of the Thunder Junction ones. So you're going to have named cards.
I have the land types is the important thing.
Exactly.
If you don't have a, say, Island or Swamp, then you can't tap the Gleamlake Verge for black.
But notably as well, and the thing that I think is another thing that's really good about these is these come in untapped, and you can use them straight off the bat. The restriction is on what other cards you have. So unless you desperately need, like, I'm going to use the Flood Farm Verge as an example again. Unless you desperately need that blue mana, you've got that white mana untapped, ready to rock and roll. But if you've already got an island or a Plains, you're off to the races. You've basically you've got a dual land, untapped, ready to rock and roll, dual land.
Yep.
I think these are pretty good, man. I mean, let's be honest. I think in the right decks, I think these restrictions.
Each of these.
Yeah, I mean, I think these restrictions are pretty light. I really do. I think these are really good. These, I could be wrong, but I feel like these are some really good dual lands. I actually think the downside to these lands, weirdly, is going to be in Commander because they're not fetchable, but also, wow. I'm going to make a sweeping statement here. I think they're going to be less powerful for me because I tend to play a lot of fetch lands, so I need those landed, and I don't play a lot of basics. So for me, they're going to struggle. But
well, you can go fetch your shock land, which has both land types on it, and then this taps for what you want, right? So that's
you're also right there. But I tell you what's even better than that, Dom. Instead of getting that shock land, or getting that one land, I was thinking to myself, that swamp's great, but I could really do with a white. That fetch land that sweeps in there, and you sacrifice it and pay one life and go get that white you really want.
No good when you're on 1 health, though, is it?
No, it's certainly not. I think these are really good.
Superior if you're on 1 health.
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely. I mean, these are really good. I'm quite excited to play with these, actually. I think these is a really nice addition to Standard.
I think they're great, honestly, in a lot of formats.
Yep.
They're really good.
100%.
If you're running basics or dual lands with the typings, they're brilliant.
Yep, 100%.
Talking about being on 1 life, there is actually a common cycle of lands in this set as well.
Yep.
And they enter tapped unless a player has 13 or less life.
Mm-hmm.
So these are, I mean, yeah, they're useless. It's an interesting thought. And say you're again, they don't have the land types on. They are common lands. They're only there effectively to enable you to run, for limited effectively on them. Actually, late game, entering untapped, brilliant. If you've got your opponent down to 13, they enter untapped. So, yeah. Also, theirs will enter untapped as well. So you're giving your opponent an advantage there.
There will be that.
If they're running it.
There will be that as well. I think I'd rather them just come in tapped, if I'm honest with you. I don't know. That's wild because, of course,
that can't be right.
Yeah,
no.
There are some of them. Yeah, there are some of them, but it is one of those things. When you just sort of think to yourself, I think what you've just said is dead right there. Basically, most of when you really need lands to come in untapped, particularly, is in the early game, and these are going to be coming in taps. They just feel like. Yeah. Honesty, I feel like just basic lands are going to be better than this.
Maybe, but I think having a dual land that has the potential to come in untapped at common, is an achievement from the design team. Although
that's actually a really good point. That's actually in all seriousness, that's actually a really good point because it's not a straight off the bat. You're
right that the majority of the time you'll have this in your opening hand and you'll feel sad it's not a basic, but it does tap for 2 colors as well. So actually, you might be fine with it. And they do, when you get them late, have a chance to enter untapped. So in that regard, they're probably fine for what they're designed for. I
wonder if we see these. I mean, look, I don't think you can see any standard play of these.
I think you might as stuff rotates out.
Maybe.
We'll see.
Maybe.
I don't think so, but you might. Dual lands are powerful, right? So
I just like
giving access to 2 colours untapped. If you're in an aggro deck,
right? So,
but also an aggro deck doesn't want to draw this early, do they? So actually,
no. Okay, yeah. So the way I'm looking at this is so as I've got this pulled up, I can literally see the rare lands and the common lands. They're married up together. And then talking of rotation, I sit there and I think to myself, which one would I rather have 4 of? I know which one I'd rather have 4 of, 100%. I know it's a silly question. Would I want to put 4 of the others?
Yes, but you're a pauper player, so you can't run the rare ones anyway. So these new common lands that can enter.
I have been. I was literally about to make the point that actually these feel quite nice for pauper. Actually, yeah, I'm going to have to chat with Emma and see what she says about these. Actually, I'd be interested in what she says. But equally, fundamentally as well, having more like dual lands, even if they do have restrictions to this, is always pretty good to have in it. At the end of the day, these will be pulled in packs. They will be whacked to one side. I know I'll be building commander decks, probably low or mid-level ones, and I'll be thinking to myself, I could do with some more lands, and I probably will look at these because they're hanging around, and I've got them in my land box, and they can go in a deck, easy peasy. So, as much as I've said everything there, that's probably what will end up happening with these. One thing I just would like to quickly talk about while we're talking about lands as well is the full art lands on these, the full art basics. My lord, these are amazing. These are just awesome.
So these full arts, they're kind of in a cartoon style. They remind me a little bit of the Korea cartoon style ones, but
yes,
each of them has. Is it each of these? It must be the overlords, is it? I think each color has its overlord on the card, overlooking a group of survivors making their way through each of their domains, I suppose. So, like the green one, they're walking through a little garden. There's little plants with eye stalks on, and yeah, looking at all 5 together, I thought before I saw this, I assumed that it was all of Valgavoth, who's like the demon that rules this entire plane. Maybe it is.
No,
but,
I think it is Valgavoth. Yeah, so I'm just looking at the green overlord, and it looks nothing like that.
Okay, so maybe it is Valgavoth, but yeah, he appears differently on each of these cards.
Yeah, that's really cool, though.
But he does exist as kind of, for those who don't know, the story of this plane, it's like they trap this demon in a haunted house, and instead of being trapped there forever, it managed to find a way to expand the haunted house to cover the entire plane. We don't really know how big that is, whether it's a planet or a plane with edges like Theros, but this haunted house basically takes up the entire livable space.
We probably should have kicked off with talking about this actually, but while we're talking about this, we've already started, so let's before we move on to some cards we're interested in, let's talk about that actually, because I think you've summed that up really, really nice.
Yeah.
But the one thing I definitely look at these cards and I definitely get a feel and a vibe for is I get two vibes. Right. One is like the classic kind of almost like 80s horror feel. Which I'm all about, by the way. And then the other one as well, arguably you could probably say is still 80s, maybe 90s as well. There's definitely a Ghostbuster vibe to this as well.
100%, and actually they've revealed they're doing a couple of Ghostbusters Secret Lairs.
They have just released that as well, which kind of made me reinforce it. I know when we were sitting watching these being released at Amsterdam, I can remember thinking to myself, I probably didn't say this out loud to you because I was too busy watching, but I remember thinking to myself, it's like, this has got a bit of a real Ghostbustery vibe to it. And then the very next card they showed was one of the trap cards, or maybe it was Ghost Vacuum, I can't quite remember it, but all of a sudden, as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, this is definitely Ghostbuster vibes.
Yeah, it's obviously, the survivors have this kind of almost... I want to say positivity to them in that they're kind of fighting back, and they're they don't. Some of them seem like they're really, really scared, and the others are kind of let's let's bust some ghosts kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. They aren't afraid of no ghosts.
Yeah. They're the jock from the 80s horror film. They don't care. They're just having the time of their lives.
The time of their lives. Happy days. No. So, what's your overall feels and vibes about this theme then, Dom?
I really like it. I love the concept behind the plane itself.
Yeah,
is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the artwork is generally disturbing, but then you've got we didn't really talk about this either, but so basically on the plane you've got the demons that kind of skulk about. What I would say is that Valgavoth basically reduced the power of all the other demons, so he's the only one with any real power as such. They're just huge monsters that roam around the other demons. And then you've got the survivors kind of struggling against it. You've got the ghosts, which are kind of technological glitchy ghosts. Mm-hmm. And the survivors use like TV screens and things, and that allows them to kind of look into the kind of ghost realm or channel it, and they look like they're using it in some of their tech to fight back against the house as well, or they're capturing the ghosts and locking them away and things like that.
Yep.
But also, all the toys on the plane have been infested by the thing, and they've all got insects inside them and horrible stuff. Yep. It's like all of that artwork is generally disturbing, but then you've actually got some of these other things are just happy doing what they're doing. Or you've got the people that have just embraced the carnage and chaos, similar to like kind of characters, and they're just running around with an axe, like a crazed killer in a movie or something.
Well, hold on, just let me stop you for a second, because while I was playing Card yesterday, an interesting conversation come up about this.
Yeah.
So you've sort of said there's some pretty grueling artwork and some pretty scary stuff, really, isn't there?
There is, yeah. In between some of the more uplifting.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I don't personally feel like there's anything in here that is like grotesque or anything that oversteps any lines. I kind of want to make that nice and clear, but it's supposed to be a kids' game, isn't it, Dom? Can you imagine? Can you imagine bringing your 14-year-old country boy, hasn't seen much of the world, bless his little heart, naive as anything, comes in and these spores and demons? Or am I overlooking this?
What are you talking? Well, I mean, it is what it is.
Sounds like
in the holiest of books,
Sounds like little Jimmy needs to watch Predator 2 like I did as a very young teenager and get horrified that way.
I watched the original It at a young age, and that messed me up. That was you watch it now. I loved actually the two latest It movies.
Yes,
really good.
Yeah. Very much so. I think that's a fundamental thing. So, look, I'm going out on a limb here, Ray. I think you're a bit of a horror fan, aren't you?
Oh yeah, I do love horror movies.
And I do as well. I think that's the thing, a true horror as well. And I feel like I'm talking particularly from the artwork style and the feel of the plane so far. But this just feels like, to me, honestly, this feels like they've sort of smacked this out of the park a little bit to me. I'm really enjoying this. And the thing that I really like about it as well is I normally find with horror, like horror genres in general, is normally quite dark. Now, I understand why they go with dark. I get it. I understand it from an aesthetics point as well. But the thing I love about this as well is I'm just rolling through this. I'm someone that I can appreciate a dark picture, whether it be in terms of colour or as in style. But I do quite like a bit of colour to my artwork as well. Whereas there is a lot. So I'm just looking at a card here. It's called Give In to Violence. It's a black card and it's quite a dark piece of art, but it's got a deep red background to it as well. Makes it really, really pop. I love all of that. It's inviting to the eye. It's still dark, spooky, scary. I'm I'm really enjoying the feels and the vibes of all of this.
Yeah. I do also want to touch on a little bit of story and a little more cards. So within the plane, you've got these kind of manifestations of the human survivor's emotions that lead them not to lose hopes, and they're called glimmers. So they're enchantment creatures. So to give you an example, there's enduring innocence, it's a little sheep, and then you've got other ones like the Lionheart Glimmer, which is like a lion that's hunting alongside these survivors. So these are kind of manifestations of the positive emotions that obviously the demon can't destroy, which help along the survivors. So it's obviously how a lot of them have managed to survive all this time, even though the whole thing. But you've also got on the other side, there's a lot of enchantment creatures in this set, I have to say.
Yeah, there is.
You've also got fears, which are an enchantment creature, nightmares. And there's like a fear of abduction with a little alien on it, or fear of immobility as well. So these are like the fears that the survivors are facing, and then the glimmers that are trying to help them out as well. And whilst all the beasts within there, not all of them are unfriendly as well. You've got kind of beasties, which are like almost imaginary friend style, kind of big fluffy things that help the humans, but they wear masks because their true appearance is so terrifying that survivors wouldn't kind of take their help.
Yeah.
So there's kind of this, not all hope has been extinguished for these poor little survivors. So there is throughout the artwork like flashes of brightness and light and hope. Yeah.
And I think just coming full circle to what I was saying about the artwork, I think that's part of what's coming through is that instead of it just being that doom and gloom, there's a lot of bright colour, and I think that leads to the hope you're talking about. I think definitely. Just on a side note, I've just seen a card called Piggy Bank. If you guys are listening on the audio version, you should definitely go check out the artwork. I mean, quick side note, I saw one of my friends, his little girls have just started a piggy bank, but it's basically, instead of it being like, well, it is basically old school like what we had, which would have been a piggy, like basically a box like in the shape of a pig. I tell you what, they would not want to see this piggy bank, that's for sure. It's got grueling teeth on its belly, and it looks demonic.
These are one of the toys or artifacts.
It's a bear. It's an artifact creature bear toy. Yeah, it's wow. I tell you what, that's pretty incredible. It really is. But I think these are, I think this is going to be a really good little set.
There's some really interesting, while we're on the subject of artwork, choices that they've made. So you've got like different arts on certain cards. You've got these like lurking evil cards where on one card you'll have the survivor running away. They're looking back over their shoulder. You can't really see what they're running away from. Whereas you'll get the same card, and on that version, there'll be like a creature chasing them and stuff like this.
They spoiled this at Amsterdam, didn't they? And it was really cool, actually. It was really cool because I noticed it straight away, but they didn't announce it at first. They re-showed a piece of art. I can't remember the name of the card itself, but they re-showed the bit of art. And the second time round, it had it in the background. And it was... I think that was really cool. I think that's a really unique way of introducing subtle little Easter eggs almost into the artwork. You know what I mean?
I will say as well, to make it easier for kind of LGS and everything, I think they do have a separate collector number for each version, which make things a little bit easier, because there's nothing worse than when there's like 4 versions of a single card and they all have the same kind of collector number.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah. You've also got these other treatments, so like the mirror monsters. So some of the more iconic monsters in the set, you see, leaping at a survivor, and you're seeing that monster in the reflection of, say, the survivor's sword or glasses or things like that, which is kind of cool.
They've got some nice. Sorry to interrupt. They've got some nice altars for the glimmers as well. They're really cool.
Yeah. They're Japanese artists, I think, all of those. So they're kind of anime style. All the
very cool
glimmers. Yeah,
very
same for the overlords as well.
Yes.
I think. Yeah.
They look, actually, I really like those. The Japanese version of those overlords. I think they look. They weirdly don't look as scary, but they look. I prefer the artwork.
Yeah, they look like traditional kind of
Yes, yeah.
spirit monsters kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've also got. I think all of the rooms have a borderless style as well.
They do. Yeah, I'm just kind of looking these as well as the rare cycle of lands.
Yeah.
They do. I just wanted to sort of bring up while we're talking about borders. Actually, they've got like a showcase version board art that I'm not the biggest fan of, and
Is this the sparkly foils?
No. So these are the so you've got sort of like your sort of normal, quite playable cards, like Come Back Wrong, Split Up, Reluctant Role Model, like just normal cards, Chainsaw, but they've basically got they've got like the TV border on them. The one
these are kind of.
Go on.
I was going to say reminiscent of the kind of neon cards from Kamigawa.
Now, I was a big fan of those, and in principle, I like with what they've done. But there's one thing I don't really like. Demonic Cancer is a great example about this. The frame is basically a pinky red. It's a black spell.
Yes. So we've come back around. So we've discussed this kind of thing a few times before. I'm looking at the Come Back Wrong. So obviously the whole border is pink.
Yeah, it is.
But the card is a black card.
Yeah, that's which is then even more confusing because if you just in the way that I'm looking, if you look a little bit further underneath, you've got, I would arguably say, a slightly softer pink that is then the red colour, and I just feel like they should have distinguished that a bit different because the rest of them are fine. Also, Ghost Vacuum, which is an artifact, it's quite like a neon in blue, which is very similar to the blue cards.
I think so they've kind of they have given them their own unique colours, haven't they? But they're just slightly so like obviously black historically is kind of purpley, isn't it? If they give it a special thing, whereas this one is maybe a bit too neon-y. Looks more like a pink.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, is it going to cause big issues? No, but I do also feel like your colour identification should be quite obvious, or a bit obvious than that. Let's put it like that.
You should be able to look at the card and know what colour card it is.
And I know there are people out there be like, well, just look at the colour pip of the man. And I get that, honestly, I do. But when you're, instead of leaning over, I'm not very good. Sometimes when it comes to board states, I have to look at people's boards. And I don't like doing that because what traditionally happens when you look over people's boards, they get nervous. And they start being like, whoa, what are you looking at? Why are you looking at my board? And you're like, whoa, I'm just looking at a board state. And do you know what I mean?
It's the Eye of Sauron. It's the Eye of Sauron. Something's going to get blown up.
Exactly, 100%. So I like to try and do it. I try to be a bit more subtle about it than like lean over and I'm looking over your board state. But also, I know that I could have a little look over, and I could quite easily be like, okay, well, what red, blah, blah, blah. So, I don't know. I just feel like it would have been nice just to have that bit of... It's a very small little thing, because actually, the borders and the artwork looks absolutely sick. They look incredible. I want to make that nice and clear. I just wish that the black cards were just a bit more black. Maybe if they were purple, I think that would have definitely... helped.
It might be one of those things where actually you need to hold one in your hand.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I was literally about to say, hopefully in real life they look a little better. They look a bit more distinctive. But yeah, there's some really nice... I'm liking the collector versions of some of these, or the alt arts, or showcased, however you want to put them. Yeah,
some interesting versions. Yeah, you've got some of the main heroes from the set who have obviously almost said Planeswalk, but they haven't. They walked through an Omen path to get there. So like the Wanderer and Zimone from Strixhaven. I think Tybar. Yeah.
Oh no, Kaito's the Planeswalker. But...
he still has his spark. Yeah.
He does still have his spark.
And he followed the Wanderer there. Basically, the Wanderer walked through a portal, and he was like, "Oh, not again!" And then he Planeswalked her after her. But yeah. Also, we didn't forget to mention actually Leyline's returning.
Oh my, yes, like so.
Not a mechanic as such, because they are just enchantments, but obviously they are a distinctive set of.
So weirdly, when we were watching this being pre-reviewed, is one of the most exciting parts that we were talking about, wasn't it? The thing that we were really like, oh, ley lines are back. This is amazing. Yeah, Dom is 100% right. We have a new leyline cycle. So Leyline of Hope, Leyline of Transformation, Leyline of the Void, which is obviously just
That's a reprint.
And then Leyline of Resonance and Leyline of Mutation. I mean, Leylines are always pretty funky. For people that don't know what a Leyline is, as Dom rightly said, it is an enchantment. But the thing that is the good thing about these cards is they have an interesting line of text which reads, if Leyline of X is in your opening hand, you may begin the game with it on the battlefield. Oh, baby.
Yeah, pretty good.
These are pretty good. They are very situational. So, for argument's sake, if you have it in your opening hand, I've had this happen before with ley lines. I thought, yes, I've got a ley line. This is amazing. But I don't have a good enough hand to warrant keeping it. But
I mean, that's
once in a blue moon, though, you get that ley line of anticipation, and you've got that turner on Soul Ring, and you've got the A, B, and C, everything else you can do, and you basically just play your land and you pass, which is a form of Magic I love playing. And then you become responsive, and it becomes into your opponent's end step before you come to mine. Great, okay, I'm now going to vomit out my creatures. I'm going to do my card draw. I'm going to do what I need to, blah, blah, blah. Look, out of these ley lines, there's some good ones. I do like the white one. You know, the white one, Leyline of Hope. If you gain life,
is an interesting one.
Yeah, if you gain life, you gain that much +1. As long as you have 7 or more, at least 7 life more than your starting life total, creatures you control get +2/+2. This is really cool.
Powerful.
Yeah.
There's an angel that has this effect on it.
Yes.
And it's always an overperformer, especially in Commander. Notably, gaining life doesn't often win you the game, but actually this gives you an avenue while you're pumping all your creatures.
Mm-hmm.
So actually that gives you the avenue to win through that life gain. So
I think that's quite nice as well. Is I could see this going in a lot of sort of like token decks with white in that you're gaining. I mean, I don't know about yourself or other people. I tend to put life gain into those type of decks because particularly sort of like Soul Warden and the other
the Soul Sisters.
Yeah, because they're basically they are just incredible because you're gaining 1 life off of that. So it's very easy to get 7 more life moving forward than your starting life total. To then get a buff of +2/+2 over those creatures, you're already going wide. So to get +2/+2s over them, it's pretty good in it. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Again, maybe not so easy in Standard.
No. Yeah. I need to have a proper read of these ley lines, but I feel like that was a bit too situational. I think Standard's a bit too quick. I think a lot of like constructed formats will be a bit too quick for that.
I think reprinting Leyline of the Void into Standard when you're also reprinting Delirium is a bit savage as well.
Oh, yes, it is. So, Leyline of the Void reads, if a card would be put into your opponent's graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead.
Yeah, so, your opponent's not going to end up with Delirium, are they?
No, they are not. Do you know what this... Well, this heavily reminds me of a white card called Rest in Peace, which I love.
Oh, well, that was reprinted, but that was as a special guest.
That was as a special guest, yeah. So, isn't currently in rotation, but yeah... Yeah, that card is equally as brutal. I'd probably say Leyline of the Void is probably a smidge better, but yeah, these type of things are probably there to try and keep this sort of stuff in check. But it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I'll tell you the interesting one, actually, just quickly while we're talking about these. Leyline of Mutation. My friend.
This one seems really good, actually.
This has an interesting line of text. You may pay Wooburg rather than pay for your mana cost for spells you cast. That's very interesting.
Yeah, so if you've got a Morophon or a Fist of Suns, it's the classic artifact that lets you play Wooburg rather than its mana cost, then you're casting every spell for free, which is a classic combo piece.
Yes, it is. Interestingly enough, Lo, this is for commander players to bear in mind. You're not playing this in your mono green deck.
No.
Because of the pips that are available. So on the card itself, we've said Wooburg, but it does actually have the like it does with Wooburg. It has the pips, which so you've got the white, blue, black, red, and green one. So this is only going to be in your 5-color commander decks. But actually, I'd put that in my 5-color commander decks. Load up with big old bonky creatures. Go for
you
fast
said
ramp.
it yourself. You're building Reaper King, so
yes, I am, and this is probably going to go in there.
There you go.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. 100%. Yeah, they're pretty good. I'm a big fan of the ley lines.
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool.
Happy days.
To see some new ones.
Cool. So why don't we talk about? We've been recording for a good period of time, but why don't we talk about some cards that we're personally interested in, and then we can sort of wrap up from there. How does that sound?
Yep, sounds good.
Why don't you go first? I'll give you the honour.
Okay, let's see. I picked out a few here. So, going back to lands, there is a new enchantment land that's being printed into the set. It's called Valgavoth's Lair, and it's an enchantment land with hexproof. Mm-hmm. It does enter tapped but as it enters, you choose a colour, and you can tap for 1 mana of the chosen colour. So, obviously, the only enchantment land we've had historically is Urza's Saga, which honestly doesn't really count. It's basically a saga pretending to be a land.
Yep.
This is a land which is just an enchantment land with hexproof. So, again, enters tapped, but taps for any colour. So, your Enchantress deck's probably going to want this, right?
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say. You said this earlier. Your Enchantress decks, this is free value. As well as, comes in tapped, but still pretty good.
Any colour. Or a colour of your choice.
Yeah.
For the game.
Yeah, that's always pretty strong, particularly in 2, I'd probably say 3+ colour decks, I think is pretty good. I know we are looking at it coming in tapped, but still.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. Nice versatility to it. It's not Command Tower, admittedly, but still.
Command Tower doesn't draw your card when it enters unless you've got some other landfall ability, I guess. But
no, it does not.
Same is true of this if you don't have an Enchantress effect, I guess.
That is also true as well. Yeah, that's pretty good. Pretty good. Some nice spooky artwork on it as well.
Mm. Okay, are you going to pick one?
Yeah, sure. Why not? I would like to speak about a card called the Mind Skinner. So this is a blue card. Shock horror.
Yeah.
That is 3 blue mana. Is a 10/1 Dom. Sounds pretty good, doesn't it?
It's pretty good, yeah.
It reads, Mind Skinner cannot be blocked. If a source you control damage to an opponent, prevent this damage, and each opponent mills that many cards. Oh, baby.
So, this is also a legendary enchantment creature.
It is. And a nightmare as well, which is interesting. Yeah. I like a nightmare.
So, you're paying 3 mana. If this is your commander, say,
mm-hmm.
You can basically mill someone for 10 every turn. They can't block this.
Yep.
But on the other side, it does prevent the damage, so you're not one-shotting them with commander damage.
That is the only downside.
Unless you have some kind of effect that damage can't be prevented. But in mono blue, I'm not even sure that exists in mono blue. But
I think you're also jumping.
That would be hilarious.
You're jumping through a lot of hoops to get to that point, though, aren't you?
I think milling someone for 10 with an unblockable 10/1 is hilarious.
So the reason why this interests me, there's 2 reasons. One, 3 technically. It's blue, always interests me. Number 2, I have been thinking about building a nice new mill deck recently because I am that type of monster. But Dom, I've always found the biggest issue, which leads into point number 3 in a minute, the biggest issue with mill is you normally have to pick one person to aggressively mill to get the value out of those cards because most cards say, target opponent. Yeah. Whereas Mind Skinner says each opponent mills that many cards.
Yeah, that is a very important line of text.
Yes, it is. Because whereas primarily mill in Commander, I've built mill decks in Commanders, and unless you splash black, you really struggle. Like really, really struggle. Like I said, you have to aggressively mill one person. That's not the nicest feeling for them. Also, I don't really want to do that, but this one's is even. This one feels nice and even, and I kind of like this one.
The fact it's all of your sources as well.
Yep.
It's not just the Mindskin. It's if a source you control would deal damage to an opponent.
Yep.
Prevent that damage, and each opponent mills that many cards. So if the rest of your deck is just a bunch of flyers or something,
well,
you're just going to swing in and mill them out.
So I think I'm just like building off the top of my head a bit, but like something like with Broodvic in this as well, so double the amount. You can have your was it Fractured Sanity, all those like heavy mill, big mill cards, just to supplement that as well. I mean, they are targeted, unfortunately, but I think you're dead right. Basically, you could do like a Blue Spirits or Blue Birds deck with this, to be quite honest, and you're just using evasion, and you're not killing them with taking away their health. You are just milling them and milling them hard. And if you just have all the mill doublers, which there are plenty of, I think this, it's
I'd love to see this little nightmare as an equipment deck as well. It'd be quite funny because actually it's a 10-1. So as soon as you give it like double strike or something, everyone's milling 20, right? Just from this card.
Yeah, that might have been the way I was thinking about doing this. Actually, is mill doublers. I was either thinking maybe artifacts or maybe auras, just like buffs, basically, to get it going up, that sort of stuff. But I'm this one piqued my interest. This is on my filthy list. I like this. Go on, Dom. Why don't you kick off with another one?
Okay. I've actually got one of the glimmers. It's Enduring Courage. It's 2 generic and 2 red. Whenever another creature you control enters, it gains +2/+0 and gains haste until end of turn.
Yeah.
And these Enduring Glimmers, when they die, they return to the battlefield as an enchantment.
Right.
So enchantment creature, and when it dies, it comes back as a regular enchantment. Mm-hmm. So this effect is a 3/3 as well, just as a point of interest.
Nice.
But this effect's seen play before. There's a card called, I think it's Ogre Battle Driver.
Okay.
Which will play, and that has this effect on it, whereas this has the added effect of if you destroy it, it's coming back, right?
Yep.
So I think this will probably see play, definitely.
Nice.
Giving everything haste and +2/+0.
That's not a bad thing, is it? Let's be honest.
When it enters is really good.
Yeah.
But, yeah, some of these glimmers, especially the enduring ones. So this is Enduring Courage.
Mm-hmm.
So it's in particular the enduring glimmers, when they die, they return to a battlefield as a regular enchantment.
Yep.
So again, you're going to get a double card draw if you've got an Enchantress.
These these glimmers they're quite interesting, aren't they?
Mm.
Very, very much. Should we talk about what we discussed off camera, which could be the most powerful card in this set, which is Kona Rescue Beastie, which is for 4 mana, 4/3 Beast Survivor that has survival. At the beginning of your second main phase, if Kona Rescue Beastie is tapped, you may put a permanent card from your hand into the battlefield. I mean...
Yeah, so this putting any permanent card from your hand onto the battlefield is pretty good.
Yeah.
To say the least.
just a smidge. The one thing I would caveat this with is because I definitely fell into this trap, and I definitely see other people fall into this trap. They kind of all of a sudden go, right, okay, here comes my Ulamog, blah, 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 blah. Whoa. This is not cast. This is put onto the battlefield. That's the only thing I would say. But
on the other hand, it can't be counterspelled either. It's just being put onto the battlefield. So
yep, that's pretty powerful in itself.
And again, because this is a survival mechanic, being tapped in your second main phase isn't difficult. As we said, there's even vehicles in this set.
Yep.
One of the vehicles in the set is actually amazing as well.
Which one's that called?
I'll have to find it while you're describing your card. But
okay. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. So I think the thing that is, look, is this card going to see heavy standard play? Possibly. It's definitely pretty good at cheating cards out, particularly if there are going to be, artifacts that you're going to end up tapping with. But where I can really quite see this is this to me, I think would be really good. Actually, I'll tell you where this sits really nicely in a Kinnan deck I've got, which is basically anyone who doesn't know Kinnan, it's you basically go infinite with a ham sandwich and you just basically vomit non-humans from the top of your library into the battlefield. But interestingly enough, with this is this will trigger it and will enter the battlefield, but also you can tap this pretty quickly and easily. There's lots of tappers and non-tappers in that deck. I think this is going to be a real good card. This is going to be a good one. Good.
Yeah. Yes. So the vehicle I was talking about is also in green.
Mm-hmm.
So it's two green. It's called Head Shredder.
Okay.
It's an artifact vehicle. When it attacks, you may mill 2 cards. Whenever one or more land cards are put into your graveyard from your library, put them onto the battlefield tapped. So, say you mill me out for 10 with your little mill guy, and you mill me 10 lands. Those lands are going onto my battlefield tapped.
Yeah. Wow.
For example.
I mean, that's not bad, is it?
So maybe I need one of these to in my deck. If although you might just end up milling this, who knows? But yeah, this is interesting because if you've got again the manifest dread, you could pick the creature to manifest out of your 2 cards, and if the other one's a land, you dump it in your graveyard.
Yep.
And
it's an interesting, on a side note here as well, it's an interesting bit of art as well because what even is that?
That's the Head Shredder?
Yeah, spidery thing.
It's like it's some combination of like a possessed lawnmower.
Yeah,
trimmers, arms everywhere.
Exactly. Yeah,
something out of the Lawnmower Man. I guess
it's wild. Yeah, that's absolutely crazy. But interestingly enough, as well, that is the focal point, and it is bizarre. The background, although it's very dark with a faint green, it's that's a nice bit of art there. It's interesting, very very interesting. Okay, I'll pull up another one. Talking of horror, the Jolly Balloon Man.
Oh no!
So this Jolly Balloon Man is 1 generic, a red and a white for a human clown legendary creature. 1/4 has haste. Is pay 1 generic and tap. Create a token that's a copy of another target creature you control, except it's a 1/1 red balloon creature. In addition to its other colours and types, it also has flying and haste. Sacrifice at the beginning of your next end step. Activate early as a sorcery. So it's a bit of a Kiki-Jiki light, really, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty good.
I like this. I like this card a lot.
It's a really powerful effect.
Yeah.
The artwork is one of the more horrific in this.
Yeah. So if for anyone that's listening or anyone doesn't know, he appears to be blowing up what looks like the skin of someone's head, basically, as a balloon.
Yeah, he's turning people's heads into balloons. And as I said before, it's like this reminds me, if anyone's watched Japanese Tales of the Macabre on Netflix, season 1, episode 3, it reminds me of this. But trigger warning going into that is suicidal themes. But it's about this horror tale where all these balloons start coming down, and nasty stuff.
Yeah, you were telling me a bit of off camera. It sounds quite interesting, quite dark, but quite interesting actually.
Yeah. I recommend watching that series.
Yeah, we were talking about this before, and I think I might do.
Yeah, it's based on the art of Junji Ito, who has actually done some magic cards. He did some of the magic. He did a Secret Lair and a version of Elish Norn as well.
I tell you what, I'm loving this trend of Japanese artists coming through into Magic the Gathering, particularly into like the more Western Magic the Gathering cards. Like they are phenomenal. I absolutely love the stuff they do. Really do.
So the Glimmer Showcase and, like you say, the Overlords Showcase are Japanese artists. I think this.
Yeah, they're beautiful. So the other thing I like about this as well. He said the jolly balloon man, Dom.
Yeah. Like I say, this guy is obviously one of these survivors who just embraced the madness.
Yeah.
And he is now hunting survivors for his own amusement and using his powers to turn their heads into balloons.
Well, it's interesting because he's got one of those masks you were saying over his face. So he's obviously turned into some
so these
are...
Yeah, so you've got the kind of they do have a name, but
I can't remember what they're called
within the set. But I can't remember what they're called. But they're basically your slasher villains and people who've gone crazy and mad within the house and just they live there quite happily doing their thing.
Yep. Apparently, he's happily blowing up human heads. Why not? Hey. I think you're right. I think it's a powerful effect. I think it's quite an interesting little build potentially. I wonder whether like I was sort of saying off camera, it's a low mana cost commander, which I always quite like. I think when you start going sort of maybe 4 or 5, you need to get some serious power out of it. Otherwise, it just dies a couple of times, becomes taxed out of it. But this is low, quite accessible.
Having haste as well. You can do the effect straight away if you've got more than 3 mana.
Exactly. I think, it'd be interesting. I'm going to be looking into this. I think you could build something quite interesting with this. I think this would probably definitely be more of a combo deck than anything else, but 100%. Pick us another one, Dom.
Okay, so I'm going to pick... this is a controversial card, actually. There's been some discussion about it. It's legendary creature, Marina Vendrell. Okay. It's a 5-color, so it's one of each Wooburg mana cost. Human Warlock. And it's a 3/5. When Marina Vendrell enters, reveal the top 7 cards of your library. Mm-hmm. Put all enchantment cards from among them into your hand, and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Sorry.
Okay. Yep.
And then she has a tap ability, so it's just tap, lock, or unlock a door of target room you control. Activate that's sorcery.
That's very interesting.
So this is obviously a card that's been effectively printed for Commander to allow you to use every single one of the new room cards, which is great, right?
Yep.
But as is often the case with these kind of 5-color commanders, it feels like room commanders are now solved. There's probably not going to be a better one than this card.
Yeah.
Similar to how they did the shrines. What's this? The shrine commander? Well, that is the shrine. If you're building a shrine deck, that is your commander.
That's now your go-to for it.
And your deck's completely built itself because they've created a custom card that does exactly what you need it to, which obviously at the inception of the commander format was not. It was about using these old janky cards, but we've moved beyond that now. And this card, if you want a rooms deck, 5-color room deck, or even an enchantment card, actually,
that's what makes sense.
Top 7, putting all enchantment cards, no, it doesn't even have to be rooms for the first effect, into your hand is very cool.
Yep, I could definitely see this basically being it's gonna be a room / enchantment deck just by the nature of the commander. But really, the sub theme is enchantments, and you could really go to town on a lot of these, to be honest.
If you've run out of enchantresses, you need to refill your hand. You play your commander. You don't even have to. It just gives you access to 5 colors within enchantment decks, and
there's a lot of powerful enchantments in all those. Yeah, really. I mean, a lot of the engines, to my mind, is in white. Green, you get a lot of the really powerful ones. But gone from my head, really. But
this ability as well to just tap to lock or unlock a door, you probably only want to lock one if it was a one-off effect when you unlock it.
Yep.
So there are some that just give you an effect, like drawing a card or excellent card. You can play them at turn and stuff. But actually, just tapping her to unlock her door of a room is quite insane, because some of these are like 6 or 7 mana.
Yep.
Normally to unlock them, and maybe the other side is 2 or 3 mana to get it on the board.
Yep.
And then you just tap her to unlock the 7 mana part of the effect. It's like, oh dear.
Well, just on that point, I hope I'm not jumping in too much more, but the next card I was going to talk about, which is a room card, which is Mirror Room and Fractured Realm. And this is a great example about this one. Because one side of it is 3 mana. When you unlock this door, create a token that's a copy of a target creature you control, except it's a reflection in addition to other creature types. So, you know, these type of effects are normally pretty good. Obviously, with legendary creatures, it doesn't work. But, you know, I tell you what, you target your Dockside Extortionist, you'll be pretty happy. Do you know what I mean?
That is one of you'd quite happily lock that room and then pay to unlock it again. Yep,
exactly. That is a classic there. And if you've got an untapped creature, particularly on a stick, you are off to the races with that. But also, to the other side of that as well, is you could pay your 3 mana, get your value off of that. But the other side, Fractured Realms, if a triggered ability of a permanent you control triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. It's a Panamana kind of effect that's pretty good. That when you're basically, you know, you'll tap her as your commander and unlock that side of things.
Unlock it. She gets blown up by a board wipe player again. You get the top 14 cards the next time.
Bish bash bosh.
Well, you get the top 7, then the top 7.
Yep. Exactly. I mean, that's a pretty good effect. And if you really wanted to, I mean, the way I would maybe look at that, particularly with her, is I'd maybe use Blink as not only as protection, but also to keep going, churning through your deck. That'd be the way I'd look at that. But that's pretty powerful stuff, man. You know, you basically, with your commander, and you could play Mirror Room for 3 mana, you could then tap to unlock Fractured Realms. That's quite aggressive.
Yeah, very cool.
It is very, very cool.
Yeah.
Why don't we do a few more? Why don't you talk to me about? Grab another one for me.
So this I'll talk about Nowhere to Run.
Yeah.
There's a lot. I'll also say there's a lot of cool card names in this set as well.
Yeah, there are some really cool ones, isn't there?
So this is a 2 mana. So it's 1 and a black enchantment with flash.
Mm-hmm.
When Nowhere to Run enters, target creature an opponent controls gets -3/-3 until end of turn.
It's pretty good.
Okay. Yeah. It also has a second paragraph, which is the most important one.
Go on.
Which is creatures your opponents control can be the targets of spells and abilities as if they didn't have hexproof. And then ward abilities of those creatures don't trigger.
Oh, baby.
So here we go. We finally got the cure-all for ward is that you play this 2 mana enchantment. They lose their ward effect, and you can give their creature -3/-3. There you go.
Oh, my lord.
Yeah, and removing hexproof as well. For the commander players among you, yeah, you still get to keep your shroud, so don't worry about it. But yeah, hexproof gone, and ward abilities don't trigger.
I mean, that is pretty powerful, isn't it?
Pretty good. It's the fact it has flash as well. It's very, very cool.
I think the flash is. I think if you took flash away from it, it would be very good. It would, yeah.
Yeah, still.
But I think, yeah, definitely. But I think flash really, particularly on a black card as well, that makes it. Do you get much flash in black?
Yeah, you get the occasional creature, I think. It's not primary in black, but you do get the odd thing here and there.
That's good. In black, that's quite.
You often get a creature, say it's a 2/1 with flash, that can't, and then you flash it in and block, and that kind of thing. But yeah, not a huge amount.
That's interesting. I like that card actually.
That's a good one. It's only an uncommon.
Yep, 100%. I think it's very, very good. Talking of uncommon, I was speaking to Dom about this one before we started. Potential P EDH commander, so Pauper EDH commander for me here. Arabella, Abandoned Doll. First and foremost, that is some spooky artwork, man. That is freaky.
Just a creepy doll.
Yeah, classic creepy doll. I've never understood creepy dolls, but yeah, really, really creepy. And actually, I don't know if you're looking at the artwork now, Dom, but if you look to the left of it, the extra creepy bear with the teeth as well.
Yeah. All the teddies in this are like filled with spiders.
Yeah, it's really, really bad.
Horrible.
So Arabella, again, this was the card we were talking about when I was saying low mana abilities. But she is for red and a white, a legendary artifact creature toy, a 1/3. Whenever Arabella Abandoned Doll attacks, it deals X damage to each opponent, and you gain X life, where X is the number of creatures you control with power 2 or less. So, low to the ground, go wide strategy.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
I'm going to protect my Arabella, particularly in white, maybe with flicker effects, and I'm just going to attack. I could see something like this, obviously, in PEDH. I don't think you could be able to do this, but I could see this happening. You just get your creatures out, and something like, the enchantment where you could take creatures out of combat. I literally had it in my head a second ago. Reconnaissance. I mean, basically, she ain't dying, but you're doing the damage, and you're getting the life. I quite like this. I mean, look, full disclosure for a PDH deck, I've seriously been wanting to do Mayhem Devil for a long, long time. The problem is it's vile, and everybody knows it's vile. But actually, I'm quite interested in this deck. This Arabella as a commander could be quite interesting. Boros attacking, do damage to each opponent as well. I like that. Gain extra life. Yeah. I'm liking this. I'm liking this a lot. I like this card. Definitely.
Okay.
Why don't you do us another one? You do one, I'll do one final one, and we'll sign off.
Yeah, so we haven't even really touched on the Commander Precons, but I just want to talk about one card from it, which will be great for your Scarecrow deck as well, which is in the Golgari Precon, you get a secondary commander called Rendmore, the Creaking Nest. Ooh. This is a 5-mana Scarecrow, legendary artifact creature. So it's 3, 1 black, 1 green. With Menace Reach, so 5/5. When it enters, and whenever you play a card with 2 or more card types, each player creates a tapped 2/2 black bird creature token with flying. The tokens are goaded for the rest of the game.
Ooh.
So, for the first time ever, we've got a Scarecrow that creates crows and scares them away.
Yeah.
Exactly. Finally, this Scarecrow is the one Scarecrow that's actually doing its job.
Yeah, exactly.
And what an amazing effect. And yeah, obviously you've got to play cards with 2 or more card types, but, artifact creature, classic.
That's pretty good stuff, let's be honest, isn't it?
Yeah. It's a really interesting one. And yeah, I'll pick that out as one of the more interesting secondary commanders, at least from the precons.
Yeah, I know we haven't really touched on the precons. I feel like everybody's going to be everybody is doing content on precons at the minute, so we kind of decided to partially leave that out because I'm sure everybody's hearing about it now. There is some interesting precons this time round, actually. Some Odoatar is quite interesting.
I'm nabbing that one on release day. So.
I haven't, but I may. It's one of those things I may try and pick it up, or I may regret it because I can't get hold of it. It's going to be one of those two scenarios.
Yeah.
But very, very much. Let me do one last card, and it would be fitting for me to finish off on surprise, surprise, an Azorius card, Dom. Nico, Light of Hope. He is a 2 generic, white and a blue.
I think it's a they.
A they, sorry.
They.
Apologies, you are right. I did forget about that. For a 3/4 legendary human wizard. When Nico, Light of Hope enters, Oh yeah, because I forgot they say enters, not enters the battlefield now, don't they? Create 2 shard tokens. I've always liked these shard tokens. I've always thought these are quite interesting. A shard token is an enchantment with pay 2, sacrifice it, scry 1, and draw a card. Excuse me. I think that's pretty cool. But more importantly, the second ability is the interesting bit. 2 generic and tap Nico. Exile target non-legendary creature you control. Shards you control become copies until the beginning of the next turn. Return it to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. That's some shenanigans there, man.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're in blue, white. So yeah, what's it? You can have 3 Suntines. There you go.
Oh,
get all your fetch lands back. There you go.
Yes, please and thank you. Yeah, look, don't get me wrong. Is this is this absolutely rotten? No. But the thing that is quite nice about it is so look, blue, white, as I've spoke about many times, you do get you get funneled into a certain style of play. Now, I don't have a problem playing that style of play, but I feel like this gives something a little bit different. You can get value off of those. So like your Wall of Omens and that sort of stuff and blah, blah, blah. And that's normally where you could get that. And then you start to flicker this sort of stuff and it's great. But to create the copies of this, so, I think it's an interesting build, and it's yes, it's blue-white, but it's not normally the type of build I'd go for.
I think it's quite different, and actually, this is way more interesting kind of as a flicker deck than some of the other ones.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, so you can flicker your commander each time they enter. It's going to create 2 more shard tokens.
Yep.
And yeah, they've kept the power level low by saying you have to target a non-legendary creature. But
there's some pretty good non-legendary creatures.
I don't think that really matters.
Yeah. There's some pretty good ones, and believe me, you want to flicker them. So if you've got particularly, there's cards that it's not just flicker one card; it'll be flicker multiples.
Yeah. So obviously you're exiling the original. So I misspoke earlier where you end up with 3 Suntines, but obviously the Sun Titan you've exiled will then return, and you'll still get the ETB effect.
Well, equally as well is if you're, you could almost have a bit of a power save up, and you could save some of these shards up. You got to remember we've had Nico before that create shards, and
some of the Planeswalker versions create them.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's enough of it to really lean into it to be the main thing you do, but it's still pretty good.
Yeah, definitely in a more interesting direction than a lot of Azorius commanders, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
enable some unique things.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think that's quite an interesting one for me.
I will also say, recently they've been printing a lot of clones that the clone ends up being a non-legendary.
Yes, they have.
So there you go.
There's also there are cards that the legendary clause doesn't kick. I can't remember how they word it now. Basically your creatures aren't legendary or something.
They've printed a few effects or creatures, haven't they?
Yeah.
It's like in the Doctor Who set, there was one of the masters stopped the legendary rule from sacrificing and things like that.
Yeah, you've got a few of those. Yeah. So again, that might be interesting to look at. I'm not too sure. I know there's an artifact. I can picture the artwork in my head. But there's a few things to do with that. Is it going to be... I just think it's an interesting build of an Azorius deck, more so than a powerful deck that people should go out and build.
You'll actually survive, unlike a lot of Azorius commanders. You plop them down and your opponents are like, actually, this one is quite interesting.
Well, it's not so vile that it's a kill on sight, but it's also it's got enough bite to it that actually is worth playing. That's kind of the way I looked at it.
And also, when you replay it, you get a benefit as well. They might not want to remove it.
Yeah, more shards come down. I like those. Like I said earlier, I like those shard tokens. I like the idea that if you're not doing anything with them, great. I'll sacrifice one. I'll scry and I'll draw a card.
Yeah,
lean into that. Sounds pretty good. Sounds pretty good to me. So, broad strokes here, Dom. Duskmourn, you looking forward to this? Are you excited for it?
Yeah, I think so. I think they've delivered on the horror themes whilst having that kind of thread of hope running through it. A lot of, people have said, oh, it's a bit too memey and too many references, but actually there's a lot of more subtle references as you're looking a little bit deeper that you might not pick up on as well. Yeah. And, as a horror fan, great. Yeah.
Yeah. My only, look, full disclosure, I'm really looking forward to this. I love the theme. I'm not quite as in on the meme side of stuff, but, I'm certainly not going to lose any sleep on it. That's just the world we live in now, unfortunately. But the one thing I would say about it is it's not a traditional Magic the Gathering plane, and I will be interested to see where they move on from this. This definitely feels like not the beginning, but one of the new... The beginning of the new style of planes they're going to start to move towards to shake things up. Because let's be honest, as much as, we don't, Magic the Gathering players as a rule of thumb don't like change, but there's only so many times you can go back to Kamigawa. There's only so much times you can go back to, Dominaria and places like this. So they do need to spread their wings a little bit. And this will be interesting. I'd be interested to see after 3 to 6 months after the release how this set has gone down, because I think like a lot of these sets there'll be mumbles and grumbles, but actually by the time we get through it, I think people will enjoy it. I think people will I think it will just I think it'll be fine.
I think this hit a lot of the notes more so than Outlaws of Thunder Junction. Whilst that was a good set, it's like it was literally just an empty plane. There was no real story about it.
Which is a bit of a shame. It's
a Wild West bet with none of,
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame because it feels like that was made to fit a story more so than a story to fit the plane. But
having just come off the back of that, and also everyone's wearing a detective hat, Matters of Colour Manor, this feels like a step in the right direction. To be honest.
Yeah, I agree with you. This feels a bit more fleshed out. I love the whole idea of basically a haunted house plane type thing. I think it's fantastic. I know some people are getting hung up on but there's a TV, and no, that's fine. I'm prepared to go with this because the way they do it, and I love that they're basically they're used as like portals into the other side of the plane. I think they've really knocked this one out of the park. It's really, really cool. I'm looking forward to getting my hands on it, that's for sure. Happy days. Anything else you want to say or talk about with this, my friend?
No, I don't think so. There's some great cards in here. I think Commander decks look really interesting as well.
Yep.
Let us know your thoughts. Are you getting any of the precons? Have you enjoyed playing with them? Yeah, love to hear.
100%. Always interested to hear what you guys have to say about our topics and what we talk about, as always. Which brings us on nicely to, we'd also love you to get in contact with us if what you guys want us to talk about. We're always very open, and we've always got lots to talk about, particularly myself, as we're all aware. But yeah, any sort of likes, anything like that on all the socials, any shares, any comments is always much appreciated. As always, we love hearing from you guys. It's really nice community building up, and it was nice to sit down and actually talk about an upcoming set as well, wasn't it, Dom? I think we're gonna try and do this. I know we've done a little bit of this in the past, but we're gonna try and do this for every set moving forward. I think it's nice for us to talk about it, and hopefully you guys enjoy it as well. If you want to hear more of this, definitely get in those comments and listen to us. And let us know, and we will oblige. But anyway, Dom, it seems like a good place to sign off. I am looking forward to getting my hands on this. I know you are, and hopefully in one of our next pods we can have a little segment and we can talk about our thoughts once we've got our hands on it. How does that sound?
Yep, sounds good.
Sounds good to me as well. Anyway, enjoy your trip up in Scotland, and I will catch you guys. Thank you guys for watching, and thank you for listening, and we'll be back very, very soon. Cheers.
Bye.